Okay, so we're going to be doing a Z.Q&A right now. Thank you for your questions. I hope I can answer them clearly. So, we're outside as well because it's a nice day, and why not? So let's start. Are we hearing the lyrical perspective from a character or from you? That changes with song to song, but more often than not, you're hearing it. I think actually all the way up until the end of Z2, you're hearing it only from characters. It's only in Z3 where I start to introduce some other perspective. So I think it's fair to say up until this point, you've only ever heard from a couple of characters. And there was this intention with Z1 to do accents between characters, and that happened a little bit in Z2. But then I just didn't think it translated well, and so I ended up not doing that for the rest, because I don't think you could tell the difference between them anyway. It was so slight Britishisms and Americanisms, but there you go. So are there going to be recordings or transmissions on this album like the previous two albums? I think it's talking about Z3. Yes, there are going to be story elements, but they're not transmissions. They're not like up until now there's been recordings and transmissions, because the two main characters are never met. Well, that's not true. In Z2 they meet, but you're hearing it through a recording medium because Engel happens to have left it on. But in Z3 there's only a partial part of one recording that is a transmission, because Engel and Langham are together in person. So there's no more staticky radio. It's proper dialogue. And I think the fuck is that thing? It's like a hawk in the sky. I think it works quite well. Are any of the characters in some way based off people you've met or known in real life? It could be down to the smallest thing, such as the look of HL. Well, the only character that is someone in real life is Henry, because he is Henry. So confusing. The Henry you see on the front of the albums is someone called Henry Langham, but he didn't do any of this stuff. Obviously, he's just someone who he was like at one point in my life like a mentor, and he's a really amazing person, like the most interesting person there is. And so he's a writer, not dissimilar to Langham in that sense. He writes historical novels about Odessa crimes and things like that, and so there is some continuity there between the two entities, the real one and the fictional one. But that's it. That's pretty much where it ends. It's just he was such an inspiration to me that I wanted him to be the resounding name in my story, and that's it. But beyond that, no, every one of them is fictional. Beyond that, what mental mind state do you have to be in to create such a dark universe, concept, story, and do real life occurrences influence the way you told the story? That's a good question. What's a good answer? I know that when I write the Z albums, I'm very, very difficult to be around. I get entranced by them, or like I kind of get stuck in them, which is a good thing artistically, I think, but a bad thing when you're trying to have any sort of life outside them, because I get obsessed by all the details. I'm not the most anal person for everything, and that is a double-edged sword, but yes, I'm never in a good mind state when I'm working on Z, because for the same by the same means, if I was writing the next Quiet One album, I couldn't do it now because I'm not in the right state of mind to do an album like that. Not that I have to be happy. I'm getting happier now, but like, not that I have to be happy, but I have to not be constantly putting out fires in my mind. And it's perfect for Z. Like, I kind of let myself give myself some lenience with that internal dialogue when it comes to Z, because it works. But yeah, it's the lowest points I've ever had in my life have been of recent and while tracking Z. So I would like the process to be over soonish. I know it's not going to be over soonish for one reason, which I'll go into soon. But it's not something I'm going to hurry back to. Well, no, it's when I'm done with it. I'm done with it, and I feel like until that point, I can kind of fuck my way through this period of time and get to a point where it's finished, you know, once and for all. That's what I want, and I want it to be done perfectly, as in perfectly in my mind, that I've accomplished something that I'm proud of. Because up until this point, with the old records, no, not at all. They were nothing like what we're working on now. Fucking hell. It's like a different person. But that's evolution, you know, that's how it works. I'm slightly better at what I do, and that's it. So no, not in a good mental state. What does the "do you believe in ghosts" part of Halo mean? Well, that's quite interesting because it shows you how long this process has been, and how long we've had this story, or I've had this story intact. Halo is about the moment when, and you hear the actual moment in Z3 because you hear the dialogue, the actual transmission of the time. But Halo is about the moment that Engel takes Langham to a storage facility that houses failed Mosh. And the failed Mosh are still alive but unable to move. They are just standing still. And so before the team of researchers and scientists left this place, they cover them all in sheets. So you'll see this in the Z3 artwork as well, which is creepy as fuck. But like, it looks like, I mean, the "do you believe in ghosts" thing again is double-sided, because it's the physical entities of the Mosh who look like ghosts, because that traditional ghost uniform, which is the white sheet, but also because there are the ghosts of people inside their minds that are trapped in there, and that you know, it's not good. It's not a nice moment, but that's what "do you believe," that's what Halo's about. The way the sounds are sounding are amazing. The way the sounds are sounding are amazing, ATM machine. What the fuck? The lyrics make me think of the protagonist suffers from schizophrenia. Spell schizophrenia but can't do the first sentence. Or some mental disorder by the way he welcomes him with "hello, pleased to meet you." Is Henry inside the mind of the protagonist and controlling his actions? Well, Henry is the protagonist, so they're not. The viewpoint of most of Z is from Henry. But the "hello, pleased to meet you" is something you don't know yet, but there was a little teaser for Z3, which is an incident happening with Engel and Langham, which I realised wasn't actually on any of the transmissions on any of the records, so I had to get it out in some way, because we had this spare transmission, I couldn't fit it in anywhere, and it's kind of an important part of the story, where something is happening to Langham. And suddenly, I mean, in the book, he changes rapidly. But Mosh are interesting because they normally sound off, like there's a point at which a switch activates and they become activated. on Shock or on Lock, the two different modes of mosh. But Langham's different because there was no switch over. But for some reason, and you'll see this more in Z3, Z3 is really heavy, by the way, and there's a reason. The heaviness scale is an indication of what's going on emotionally inside Langham. I like to think of it like that. But all of a sudden, there are internal dialogues that aren't him coming into his mind. So hello, pleased to meet you is like, not tongue-in-cheek, but it's like the introduction of something bad inside Langham starting to come through. And you'll see it in the lyric booklet as well, of all of them. The red marks in the lyric booklet are meant to represent internal mosh dialogue. Not to give too much away, because you haven't got Z3 artwork yet, and that will give a lot away. But that's the general idea, that it's kind of like chaos internally. Each Z album feels like the music is evolving, changing as the story progresses. Can you share a bit of the thoughts on how you approach Z3? Also, if you could only describe Z3 in one word, what would that word be? It's a good question. Well, yeah, like I said, so Z1 to me, Z1 is a bit different though, because I liked those songs. I didn't want those songs to be lost to time, and I also wanted a way that those songs to become relevant now, because they were always to do with it, but always slightly lost in a way. So I did change them up a bit. You've heard the albums. I've changed them a bit and repurposed them and added some songs which do add credence to the story. But it was, I feel like it's more like Z1 is like the underlying architecture to what's going on in the storyline, like representing the world more than the story. And when Z2 comes in, we start to talk about the kind of macro emotions, the emotions that come through from characters rather than the general kind of populace, and the mise en scène. So I think it's more important. I hope you can hear me as well. I'm right next to a fucking river. Whoops. I didn't think of that. But yeah, so one word to describe Z3. I'm going to choose a word that's wrong. I know I am. I'm going to think about this afterwards and think of like 100 words better. But oh, I don't know. It's really horrible. Horrible, maybe. Like, it's hard to listen to. For me, it's really hard. Like, there was shit beyond the story and the stuff that happened last year that is in there as well. It's just hard to listen to, really, for me. It's just horrible. Like, it doesn't really let up either. And like where Z2 had some elements of hope, nope, it's all gone in Z3. Can't think of a better word, but like abandon, like it's not nice. It's not a nice record. I'll think of a better one and I'll post it on Twitter. But what am I doing? Do you think as a songwriter you have evolved over time? Do you consider yourself a good songwriter? No, I don't. Like, I'm gonna let my mind wander for a minute. But you know what I like? I like it when I hear people try. Like, okay, I'm not the best vocalist in the world, I don't think, at all, by any means. And there are people around me who are disgustingly amazing at singing, guitar, bass, drums. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but I'd find it I think you'd find it hard to find someone who puts more emotion and who cares more about being in the moment than I do. Like, it's all about the feel for me. And okay, I don't have a 5-octave range or 4-octave range. I can't sing in these incredible arpeggios. I mean, I'm probably not incredible, but I could arpeggio. But like, I'm not that. Like, I'm not that kind of singer. I don't want to be that kind of singer. I was always told I had a weird and interesting voice. I believe that entirely. I don't think my voice is commercial at all. I don't want it to be commercial. I want it to do what it does. I want it to break up where it breaks up. I want it to feel like I'm struggling. I want it to feel like I'm trying. And I feel the same as a songwriter. Like, I am 10 years away from being a good songwriter, but I never want to be a good songwriter, like, because then I won't hear myself trying, if that makes sense to you. I'd rather try and hear myself trying, because I feel like that's part of the art. And I feel like if I felt comfortable with how good I am, or how good I'm perceived, like, I can't take compliments. People say I'm a good singer. No, I'm the first person to disagree. It doesn't serve anyone. Like, I don't have the ego of like Kanye or anything like that. I think it was Jimi Hendrix who once said, like, he doesn't accept people's praise because it's a distraction, and all he wants to do is get on with his art. And I agree with that sentimentality, because A, it's Hendrix, and B, I don't want to ever stop trying or sounding like I'm trying. You know, Quiet One's a good example, because it's a record that I can genuinely hear myself trying to be better with the limited talent and limited tools that I had at the time. And I love that. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. This is a weird form of sentience coming out of me right now, but like, it's just, I feel like I need to hear myself try. And so no, I don't think I'm a good songwriter, but I also don't want to be a good songwriter, if that makes sense. Sorry if that doesn't make any sense. What is Believe about? What? Oh, the song Believe, I guess. Song Believe is a really interesting one, because it's the only time where we look at someone who isn't Langham in those first two records, and it's just about any couple. I mean, in my head it was a man and a wife, but the man had already had the change done, so he'd become Mosh but wasn't activated. So there was always running through his wife or girlfriend's mind, whatever, wife's mind, that there was a side of him inside that he couldn't control, that was always programmed to destroy her, hate her, annihilate her, and he had no control of when that would happen or if it would happen. But there was always this unspoken and unconsidered, or let me think of the wording. There's always going to be a silent partner in his head that he couldn't even hear, couldn't do anything. There's no connection with that until he's activated, at which point, if she's in front of him on shock, he would kill her, you know. And there's another interesting thing, is Believe, that there's a the pre-chorus of Believe has the same, principally the same pre-chorus as Instinct Extinct, because I wanted people to realize that what Believe is talking about, the idea of instinct, like instinct, and extinct, like the fact that through the Mosh, that instinctual person, he would extinguish a loved one. That's what that was meant to do. I don't know if anyone ever got that, but it's me overthinking things, I think. When will the Z3 event take place? The pre-invites went out yesterday, so I delivered them by hand to the post box. That's the pre-invite. So then we're a couple of weeks away. A couple? No, a few more. But yeah, it's all booked in. It's all ready. It's just there's a little process we have to go through as a street team first. I think it's gonna fuck with the street team. Where are you in the Z process? I think that means where am I at, like tracking wise? I'm on Z4 right now, and Z4 is, I like Z4. I always say this because it's always like the last one I worked on is my favorite, but it kind of is. Like, not to say don't go out and like download a free copy of Z3 or steal it or nick it, whatever you want to do, but Z4, I'm just very happy with Z4 because it was a really big undertaking. It's not done by any means, but it was a really big undertaking. The idea was huge, and somehow it's working, and while it's working I want to continue it, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But it's very, very different from the other records. I mean, the heaviness scale goes exponentially upwards till Z3, then at Z4 it changes slightly. It's still heavy as fuck, but there's something else going on. I can't even describe it. There's something weird that I haven't had in a record going on with Z4, like a vibe that I've never been able to, or never been able to achieve, or never attempted to achieve it, because I don't even know what the fuck it is, but I know I like it, and I think you're gonna like Z4. It's, going back to colloquially, it's catchy, it's heavy, it's riff-tastic, but it's dark and centered in something really different from the other albums, and I'm happy with it. So far I'm very happy with it. So, and there's only one song on Z4 that you've heard, which is a song called Eyes on the King, which is kind of in the vibe of the rest of the record, but it's slightly different. And to answer a future question, yes, it was remade. Eyes on the King was remade to fit more specifically with the sound of these records. Same song, all the same parts, nothing changed like parts wise, just retracked everything, because why the fuck not? So that's it. That's the end of the questions for this Z.Q&A. I hope you're well, and street team, get ready. I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna fuck you up. Not just with what's about to happen, but Z3, it's gonna fuck you up. The event, oh man, I look forward to that. Anyway, I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for your support, as always. And if you have more questions, you can ask me on Twitter or AskFM, and I'll do those outside of this video. But that's it. I hope you could hear me. I'm on a GoPro Fusion, what the fuck's it called? I can't remember. But like, I've never really used this camera for this kind of thing before, so I hope you can hear me. I think that's it. There's a few things I'm going to be talking about in updates and down dates soon. Some really horrible things as well, which I feel like I need to talk about. Not to do with me, but just events that have happened recently that are still kind of raw, and I'd like to talk about those, because just in case anyone else is, you know, in a bad way. So I'd like to talk about those soon. And there's other projects that are coming through as well. The 2 Down EP, just quickly, the 2 Down EP right now is on a tiny little vacation because one of us selfishly had a child. Not me. But yeah, I'm livid, absolutely livid. I can't wait to meet him. He looks fucking gorgeous. So not in a creepy like pedo way, in like a normal adult, very friendly 2 Down bandmate's child way. He does look, it's lucky he didn't take his dad's genes, because his dad's fucking grimly ugly. Anyway, I'm gonna go.